All right. Happy Monday, everybody, and happy Halloween. Today is Monday, October 31st, 2022. My name is Jason Flame, host of the Master Motivation Podcast, and I'm very excited to have on the show today Master Sensei Eli Guzman. Eighth degree black belt, began his love for the martial arts as a child when his parents took him to a Bruce Lee movie at the local drive-in theater. Always an athlete, he began training in karate and Muay Thai kickboxing. Martial arts did so much for him personally, it ignited a passion to teach others. Guzman Sport Karate Kickboxing opened its doors in June 2001 in the inner city neighborhood he grew up in, notorious for its gang activity and drug dealings. Master Sensei Guzman opened his school purposely in this underserved area to make a difference in the lives of all those who entered the dojo. It is that same desire to make a difference that has driven the growth and expansion of his business. Eli credits any and all success to his faith in God. He now has two locations, and his competition team is now nationally ranked 3 times. Welcome to the show, Mr. Guzman.
Welcome. Thank you for having me. I'm so humbled and honored to be your guest. That's awesome. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, and I'm excited to have you share your story with the audience today. For those of you that are tuning in live, please drop us a comment and let us know you're there, and feel free to ask questions at any time throughout the show. But I'm really excited to introduce you to everybody and let you talk about some of the things that you do in the community, as we mentioned briefly in your bio, that you purposely opened your school in an underserved area. Um, gang activity, drug dealings. Is this where you grew up?
Yes, it's where
And and so, talk a little bit about growing up in that neighborhood. What life was like leading up to getting involved in martial arts and opening up your karate school.
So basically, when I was younger, Bruce Lee was the influence, and he's the influence for many people. I mean,
Hmm.
around the world. So of course, but my parents had taken me to a drive-in movie, and he was on the film, and I was like, oh, that's cool. You know what I mean? We grew up in a kind of poor neighborhood. I would say it's in the old district of where I live, Las Cruces, New Mexico, and there was gangs in the area, and my dad always tried. He was a military guy, and always tried to prevent me from going into those kinds of areas and kept me active. My dad was an amateur boxer, so he would teach me a lot of boxing and stuff like that. So when I was younger, we had our own little gym at the house. So that's where I actually got started, and that neighborhood was just tough. It was just tough, and a lot of kids were poor in that area. So we didn't have a lot of money, but my parents gave us a lot of love. Growing up. So yeah, that's kind of like the story behind that one.
So you mentioned that your father was in the military,
Mhm.
and what was it like? What was the discipline that was instilled in you, and the work ethic? Because I think we all relate to anybody that's been in the military with those two attributes. What was it like growing up?
It was we always had to say yes sir, yes ma'am. Me and my siblings were like, we would go different places, and anytime somebody would talk to us, we were very respectful. We said yes sir, yes ma'am, and my dad got a lot of compliments or we got a lot of compliments because they're like, wow, you guys are very respectful. It's because our dad grew us that way, and it was just kind of one of those things where we just did. I mean, it was just we did what was said, and I was afraid of my father growing up. You know what I mean? So I didn't want to get in trouble. So my dad was very strict, and but it was my dad was the focal point of making sure that we grew up tough but respectful at the same time. You know what I mean? So yeah.
Right, right. Well, and we talk about how fear and respect kind of go hand in hand sometimes. We respect out of fear, and we fear out of respect. So, um, tell me a little bit about your mom and the rest of your family, what the dynamic was as you were younger.
So my mom was mainly more of she worked the earlier years, but she was mainly a stay-home mom, and we appreciated that opportunity for us to have mom at home. When we got out of school, we would walk from home to school. Mom was there. So my mom is just a sweetheart. My mom's, as a matter of fact, she helped me start my business at the beginning when I first started in 2001. She was my front desk person, and it
Mhm.
just kind of happened that way. I didn't really have, much money to start and find somebody to work for me. So mom was there, and everybody fell in love with my mom. My mom was like everybody always still to this day when I when I run into people, they're like, "How's your mom doing?" And you tell your mom hi. She's a super good person, super sweetheart. And
Hmm.
if it wasn't for my mom being there at the beginning, then I don't know, I would have been like trying to teach classes and sign people up at the same time. But my mom was there, so I was very grateful. My mom's such a sweetheart. So yeah.
Hmm. You mentioned it a couple times, growing up. You use the word poor, growing up maybe with less than others. That is something that you and I have in common. I know that growing up, not having a lot of money, my dad was in construction. So, things were either really good or not really good. Um, how did that affect, your upbringing, and how did that affect, your relationship with others in school as you were growing up? Were you treated differently? Did you feel differently? Or was that just kind of the norm across the board where you grew up?
You know what? We always had my grandmother. I love my grandmother. As a matter of fact, I live in my grandmother's house now. But we my grandmother would clean houses, and she would work for some really wealthy families, and we would always have hand me downs. So it was always we were hand down, clothes from my grandmother, from people that she worked for, and
Hmm.
we would wear that. And I have to tell you, like, there was times when I would get on the school bus, and when the Jordans came out, and
Hmm.
they had the fake ones, at Kmart or whatever. And so I remember wearing those, and I didn't think anything of it. And people would make fun of me because I was wearing not the name brand, I was wearing the Kmart brand. And so it was just one of those things where, I had to stand my ground at times. Went to school with, I would hear people talk behind my back and just say, "Hey, I think he's poor." You know what I mean? So I was just like, and I didn't, I really didn't think anything of it, but I'm grateful for growing up that way. You know, what I mean, it was just one of those things, but it made me tougher at the same time because I had to
Hmm.
stand around and stand up to bullies. You know what I mean? But at the same time, it's one of those things where it humbles you. You're grateful, and I've been able to be prosperous and do the things that I love to do, which is martial arts and. But yeah, it was tough time. In the neighborhood with cool school kids picking on me because I didn't have name brands and looking not you know I mean, we always looked decent, but it wasn't like the high end stuff.
Hmm. Hmm. Well, I can definitely relate to the humbleness of wearing hand me downs, taking food. I can remember times when we were younger that we needed assistance just for groceries and food, and fortunately we had some neighbors that really helped us out, really looked out for us, really took care of us. I mean, at one point in my life. Uh, I have two younger brothers. My mom, dad, we all lived in a 20-foot travel trailer for a couple of years where our power would run, basically to someone else's house. Our water ran from someone else's house, and we're getting, and I just look back now, and like you, having had some success in my life, and having a great business, couple businesses, you still have that. You still have that feeling, like, I don't know about you, but like, you never want to go back to that. It's always in the back of your mind. You could handle it, you could take it, but you really don't want to go back to that. It's what drives you a little bit. Do you feel that?
Absolutely. So when I was growing up, I was like, I didn't ever want to be poor. I wanted to work, for towards my goals and have nice things. And I mean, not that I have nice things, but it's because I just grew up kind of poor, and I was like, okay, I want to be able to do something for myself and make it where I am successful. But hard work. It's just hard work. Like watching my grandmother iron people's clothes. It was like every evening that's what she did. She would sit in her living room and iron people's clothes. And it's just the work ethic that my dad had and my grandmother had were just that's what instilled in me, that I was like, okay, I'm going to make something of myself. I'm going to do something good for myself, and of course my family and stuff like that. So it's one of those things where you grew up and you look back and like, yeah, you don't want to go back.
Hmm.
You want
Hmm.
to keep forward and teaching the work values and stuff like that, and the just giving people opportunities, especially my family, to be able to learn and grow and watch the work ethic that we have now.
Hmm. And I can remember very distinctly in my life that I said to myself, if I was ever in a position to give back or to do good or to help others, that would be so fulfilling. And I've had that opportunity many times over to help give back to our community. And that's, one of the reasons that I really was excited to have you on the show, because I know that you do a lot in your community. We talked about some political service, but talk about, um, did you feel that? Did you think like, hey, now that I'm in this position, now that I've had some success, I want to give back to my community that helps support me.
Absolutely. So that's what I've been doing. When I opened up the school on what we call Mesquite Street, it was in Las Cruces, and it was in the downtown area, port area. My whole goal was to go back and teach martial arts. And the funny thing is, like, I had called the mayor at the time, and I said, "Hey, I'm interested in teaching martial arts, and I'll do it for free. Just give me a building
Hmm.
that I can go teach it in, because I just want to teach martial arts." And the mayor called me back and he said, "Oh, we already have something like that at one of our rec centers."
Mm,
So that door closed. So what I ended up having to do is start building a business plan and say, okay, how do I do this? You know what I mean? So, and I had no idea how to do it. And look at 20, going on 22 years later, I run two martial arts schools. But it's just trying to get to that point where I want to go back and teach kids, the values of what martial arts has taught me, and
hmm.
giving back. So I've never turned away a student for not being able to pay the tuition. If there's ever an issue, please come talk to me, and then we can figure something out. And that's just, it's not about money to me. It's about, giving back to the martial arts and the discipline, the respect, the perseverance that it brings to everybody. And it's important that I do that, because that was my whole heart. And I think that's one of the key things that keeps me successful, is because I give back. I never went in it for money. I just love for the martial arts. I wanted to teach kids, and I will tell you, the kids that group came out of that school, they were tough as nails. We would go travel, we would go compete in El Paso, Texas, Juarez, Mexico, and I had some of the toughest kids because they grew up in a tough neighborhood and they
Hmm.
knew how to fight. But imagine knowing, like, being scrappy, but putting the martial arts behind it, giving them the skills. I mean, they went out and there was, like, no fear, and so I remember going into tournaments and we walking in, and I can already hear people saying, "Oh man, Guzman is here." You know what I mean? So it was just, my kids were like pretty darn tough, and it was fun, good times, But that was my key thing, was giving back to the community during that time, and it just flourished. I mean, I had people from all over coming to this poor part of the neighborhood, people who had money, and to this neighborhood and poor neighborhood, and taking lessons with me. So it was cool. It's cool.
Well, good for you. That's it's a great story to hear. That you're able to not only make a living teaching martial arts, because it is what you do to make a living, but also that you're able to give back and help serve those underprivileged kids that the kids that really need a second home. Martial arts for a lot of us
Yeah.
becomes your second home, your second family. A lot of times you become the father figure that someone might not have, or you become the role model, the positive role model that someone doesn't have. So that's just that's what I love about this show, is being able to talk about people like yourselves that are out there doing great things. You brought up potentially teaching in a building, and that the mayor recommended the recreation center. That's exactly how I started my
Mm.
school in the very beginning. Was the rec center was the way to go, because that's how I started. I started in a recreation center with my instructor, and then went over to the karate school. So we kind of followed that model. So do you teach any YMCA programs or any recreation programs at the time, or is everything straight through your school?
I have taught at after school programs, recreation for the city. I've done a lot of, like, things you know for kids, and I've never charged for it. I mean, I've always been that one person that, hey, can you come teach after school programs or whatever? And it's yeah, I've done that, um, and it's just I remember a lot of these people that were doing after school programs that were teaching, some of them got paid. And I remember I would tell the people that would, want to hire me to come into these facilities. I said, I don't want to get paid. And I just wanted to, just do it for as a volunteer. And I remember a lady, there was a school teacher, a principal one time, that got mad. And I had told the counselor that I would be a little bit late picking up my kids from school. And and she was upset because we were a few minutes late. But the thing that she didn't understand was, once I taught classes and everything else, I would say, I'm not getting paid for this. So just so you know, it's volunteer. I'm doing it out of the goodness of my heart to help whatever I can. But it's I would always volunteer my time, and we did a lot of service even to this day. I mean, people call me up and they say how much you charge for doing that. I don't charge. It's just
Hmm.
it's a community service to me. Just kind of getting out there and teaching. What I've learned and what it's brought me, and the key components of my success.
Well, and that goodwill, actually is in a way a great form of marketing as well, right? When everybody knows that you're the go-to guy that's going to help out without any expectation in return, it kind of builds your reputation too, right? And it builds your status in your community as that go-to martial arts expert, if you will, and people will call on you, and I love that you do that because we also do a lot of after school programs, maybe more of a school talk type situation. We've visited camps, and I love doing those things because for me, being able to go out and teach an art that focuses on confidence and respect and discipline, if I can reach them in 30 to 45 minutes, just just to last even a little while until the next time. And of course, it's a great way for you to introduce your martial arts school to them, literally at no cost. So it's a win-win. Well, it's actually a win-win-win, right? A win for you, for your school, a win for the kids that you're helping, but also a win for the school or the organization that you're helping out. Many times we'll do things as a donation basis so that the money that we make goes back to the school. That's something that we like to do as well. So I think that's really cool that you do that and that you give back and you continue to teach, and you're spreading the knowledge of martial arts. You're spreading the art of martial arts, which I think if everybody, let's face it, if everybody participated in martial arts, could you imagine what a different world we would live in? The respect level and the discipline, how we treat each other. Because when you come into the martial arts school, doesn't matter what color, race, religion, political affiliation. When you step out on the floor, we're all martial artists.
Right.
We all sweat the same. We all bleed the same, and we all train together. It's just
Agree.
such an amazing thing.
I totally agree. Yes.
So let's back up now. You talked about, kind of starting, it sounded like you started with a little bit of boxing early on. How old were you when you started, working out, training, getting in the gym?
Um, you know what a funny story is? I remember I tell people I was doing cage fighting before cage fighting was even exist. It's funny. I was a little kid, and my dad had a good best friend, I guess, and they used to hang out, and he had a son that was the same age as me, and so my dad, back in the day, we can't do that now, but he would like, we were like maybe 2 years old. He'd say, "Let's see whose son's tougher." Put him in a playpen, and they'd have us fight. They'd egg it on, the kind of, so back then it was kind of funny, but yeah, I mean, my dad, was an amateur boxer, so I started doing some amateur boxing with my father, and it was just I just love boxing. I felt like that was my first love, was boxing. And then, of course, I wrestled through high school. Actually, it was called junior high, middle school. And then I went on to high school and I wrestled as well. And then, of course, I did kickboxing. But I really fell in love with karate. I just really fell in love with the, my background base is Kempo karate. And so I just fell in love with it and just kind of stuck with it. And then, of course, I started doing the Muay Thai and doing other stuff, finding other schools. I would love to travel, and I just go. There's a dojo. I'd be like, hey, can I do a class a day or whatever? I mean, I was always just wanting to learn, So, and of course, that just became my thing, was karate, kickboxing, grappling. I've done some judo, some jujitsu, and just through the years, and I've competed in just about everything, just to get my experience in there.
Mhm.
So, and it's come in handy for many. I mean, I used to be a bouncer. I used to work security. I used to work undercover security. I did a lot of different things in my time. But I think, for the most part, I've been trying to learn a lot of different types of things, and I still learn to this day. I mean, with COVID and everything, but that kind of limited a lot of things. But seminars, I just and I teach seminars, and I go all over and teach seminars as well. So, but I think just having a good ideal background with different styles, and just understanding, because you get those people that walk into your dojo and like, I want to be an MMA fighter, and it's like, okay, well you started a little bit too late, but okay. So it's one of those things where I just kind of I think, like I said, boxing was my first thing, and I just kind of grew into all types of different martial arts.
That's awesome. That's so cool that you did a lot of different arts, and so I'm assuming that the system that you teach in school is a much more blended system than just strictly the Kempo karate that you started with. Is that right?
So my curriculum is based on karate, kickboxing, and grappling. So that's the way I set up my system. I'm not like Bruce Lee said. He's not a big. How did he say it? He's not believer in styles. He's a believer in the individual and what they can learn and what they can take and absorb, and then use it to their advantage. So that's where I truly believe that. I'm not a big person on, oh well, one system is this or one system that. I just feel like if you have a variety of different types of styles, because you just never know what's going to be thrown at you. You could have somebody that strictly done judo. Okay, so how are you going to defend that? Or someone's just a boxer. How are you going to defend that? And for me, I talk about the toolbox, and in my classes, and having the tools, just in case something happens, how are you going to adjust to that situation? So I kind of like, just like my wrestling. I loved wrestling, and so and then of course I've done some jiu-jitsu, and I just try to balance it to where what's more reality, and of course there's sport as well, but for the most part I try to be more reality based. In case a situation occurs, someone's going to want to take you down, or someone's going to want to throw a haymaker and try and knock you out. What are you going to do? So I try to focus strictly on my basic program is strictly based not on Kempo karate, but a variety of different styles put together.
hmm Yeah, no, that's great. Well, a couple people just jumping on here and a little few reactions. Please let us know. Just remind you guys, this is a live Q&A. If you have any questions that you want to ask Mr. Guzman, please drop those comments, or anything that you want to say. If you're watching on his behalf, please drop those comments, and we'll bring those up on the screen. But you talked about teaching reality-based self-defense. There's also the sport, and you've got the traditional aspect. I mean, a lot of schools focus in one area and only one area, but from what it sounds like you kind of spread things out and give people options, which I think is great, because if we're doing one thing and only one thing for so long, yes, we're going to get very good at that, but we might not be as well rounded, because a traditional martial art may not be as good for the sport, or it might not be as good for the reality self-defense. I think they all have their own purpose, and they all have their own benefits to each one of them. So I'm happy to hear that you're teaching a little bit of all of that, and blending it in. So you talked about boxing and then wrestling. What weight did you wrestle when you were in high school?
Man, I was pretty. I was at 112. I remember I weighed 112. So that's that. Yeah, and I won't
And
tell you that way now.
did you do any more wrestling after high school, or just when high school was done, that was the end of the wrestling career?
I tried to do a little bit of wrestling, like I did a little bit of wrestling afterwards, but not a whole bunch. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, I did. I tried to, because I just love it. I think wrestling is very effective. It's helped me in a lot of different situations, and I think wrestling is very effective. Just like wrestling teaches you not to be on your back. Okay, and that's, I think, as when you're working in the security world or a bouncer, you never want to be put on your back, because you can go into an arm bar or whatever, but the key thing is you don't want to be pinned. So it taught you not to go to your back. You want to put somebody else on their back. You know what I mean? So I think I really liked wrestling. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I have a bit of an interest in wrestling, because I did wrestling very short time, but I have a 17-year-old son who has been wrestling for several years now. It's his senior year in high school, and kind of excited it's almost wrestling season now. So it's just kind of exciting. I enjoy watching wrestling a lot. I love MMA as well, because it mixes, the wrestling, the stand-up fighting and the jiu-jitsu. So I love all of it. But wrestling, there's just something about wrestling that's real scrappy. I've seen some really great matches, and I've had some great guests on here that are great wrestling coaches. As a matter of fact, if you remember the movie Vision Quest,
Yes.
I had Frank Jasper, who played Brian Shoot, the bad guy, right? Interviewed him several months ago, and then he turned me on to Mike Krause. Mike Krause is one of the best wrestling coaches in the nation. So it's just really neat, and I really think that, man, nobody conditions like wrestlers do. I mean, wrestlers are so conditioned.
Yep. You have to be in really good shape. I mean, that's, I remember going from wrestling to baseball, and it was just totally, different types of, it was different, but I was in good shape, long distance, but in the reality of sprinting, it was different, but yeah, in the endurance and the wrestling and the oxygen that it takes for your body. Because when I hadn't done it in a long time, and I went to a jujitsu tournament and I did jujitsu, I was like, man, I could feel like my body just ache because the oxygen it takes for a wrestler, to be able to keep going, So yeah,
Hmm.
you're in really, really good shape. Absolutely, I agree with you.
Yeah, definitely. And so let's talk a little bit more about opening your school. You mentioned that your mom helped you get your school open, and she helped you at the front desk when you first got started. But talk about some of the struggles of starting your own business.
You know, when I first started my business, I had a 1965 Impala SS. It was a cool lowrider, really cool lowrider, and it had murals on it. It had, really cool rims and everything. I sold that for $1,500 to start my school, and
Mm,
it was sad for me, but at the same point, I was like, and it was worth it. I mean, look where I am now. But $1,500 is how I started my karate school. And the struggles. I think when you go into it, just not having a business degree or whatever, you just kind of like you just don't know. But for me, um, just trying to get it started. It wasn't too hard. I mean, the first part of my day of my school I had like 30 some students, but back in the day we had flyers, so we were putting flyers everywhere and going to the schools and trying to get, exposure.
right.
But I think, for me, starting the school wasn't the hard part. I mean, it's just transitioning through the years and trying to, having your growing pains and just trying to learn as you grow, but
Hmm.
it's hard. I mean, it's really hard. But I mean, I didn't really have any like major struggles at the beginning. But and the thing is when you start having those growing pains and you're like, okay, do I need to expand? What do I need to do? Your parking lot gets too big. You don't have parking. So there's those kinds of things that come with growing pains. It's just growing pains.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, let's give a quick shout out. I know Dana Abbott is watching right now, so thank you. Just had him on the show
And
last week. So
I watched part of that interview too. Good job, sir.
cool. Thank you for tuning in. Let me know if you have any questions. We do have one question. Ernesto Garcia wants me to ask you about your first ever demo and what song you used. It had to be Eye of the Tiger or like a Karate Kid song or something.
What's so funny? I was in the fourth grade, and there was a group of us, and we had like this end of the year school thing, and a group of us got together, and we did a kata, and the song was Kung Fu Fighting. So yeah, so it was. I was in the fourth grade, and all my students kind of know that, and so whenever that song comes out, I'm like, well, it's like one of those, like it just brings me back to my childhood memories of doing a demonstration when I was in the fourth grade.
Oh, that's awesome. So cool. Yeah, I can't even to this day when I watch our demo team perform, 80s music just comes to, the Top Gun and all those songs, like those would be our staples. And here we are 2022, and we just had a demo, and one of my students used Eye of the Tiger. I'm like, "Oh my God, this is so old. Like, can't even believe they still
It's
use this
good.
song for anything." But it's so right. I guess you can't beat the classics. Well, hey guys, keep the questions coming, keep the comments coming. If you'd like to know something that we haven't talked about yet, please let us know. But we were just talking about opening your school. You sold your car to get $1,500. Started your school at $1,500. Old school guerrilla marketing, flyers everywhere, flyers on every car in every parking lot, and put in everybody's hand. I remember. Thank God for social media now because we don't have to do that. Um, but you said growing pains, right? So, I mean, first day you opened, you had 30 new students, the parking lot started filling up. What were some of the things you mentioned not having a business degree? What were some of the challenges, business wise, things you didn't know that you wish you would have known, or things you look back now and go, what the heck was I thinking?
Um, Basically, learning more about um, taxes and stuff like that. I think that's one of the key things that, but then again, you just got to find a tax person. Like I had no idea, I just, you just think on the outside. You look at a business, you only think on the outside, but when you go behind the business, people don't see what's behind the business that has to function in order for that business to run. And so I think for me, I just kind of asked business people that were in business, hey, how do I do this? How do I do that? How to get started with your business license, and of course different, and then of course following up with, your insurances and everything else, but it's just, I think I I just kind of learned from everybody else, just kind of ask other people, I watched, one of my instructors, how he kind of did things. So I kind of followed suit with that, but, I just kind of learned just by watching others is basically what I did.
Hmm. Well, and we met at the martial arts super show, and I remember you having questions about Maya and talking with the coaches at Maya. How did that change the way you ran your business, or what were some of the things that you did to improve your business by hiring a coach?
You know, um, I had always seen the magazines come in, and I remember telling one of my parents, she was a student, and she brought her kids. I was like, you know what, I would love to go to that super show one day. And
Hmm.
for I think Christmas gift or something, that's what she gave me, that a ticket to go to the super show. And so that was my first experience, going to this, and it just opened my mind to, I mean, so many things. And
Hmm.
to this day, I'm still, an elite member, and I just feel like the knowledge and the power that came from, um, the people that, were um, the mentors that were there. I mean, you were my mentor for a little bit as well, and they're just phenomenal. I mean, Adam Parman has been my consultant for many years, and great guy, and we smart guy, man. So I was actually up there visiting him last month, and just watching how he does things at his school, and it's just the people that you surround yourself, become more successful. So the people that are already have a grasp on it, you just kind of learn from them. I've traveled from East Coast to West Coast, learning from all kinds of instructors and doing seminars. And I think it just opened so many other doors and good friends, and I value that opportunity for me to go meet people, people as yourself, as the other heads of the martial arts and Maya and Elite and stuff like that. So they're a great group of people, and that's where I'm grateful for them as well. So, or else I wouldn't be where I'm at now.
Well, let's talk about this too, because sometimes, and I remember when I first, hired a coach, when I first became an elite member, as you said, and you probably remember this, and a lot of people could relate. It comes down to, okay, well, here's what you're going to get, here's what you're going to learn, and it cost X, right? And we know that can be a huge expense in our eyes at that time, when in reality it is a perfect investment in the growth of our school. But what made you make that decision, or what made you flip that switch of thinking of it as an expense versus an investment? Because I know that there'll be a lot of people out there, whether they're martial arts school owners that are watching, or people that are just getting help in other areas of their business. We hesitate because of that cost. And so what was like the game changer for you, or what really made it worthwhile, if you will?
Um, just learning from the best of the best in the industry. I mean, I think learning from people that have already been there and done that and are already ahead of you. Like,
Hmm.
you know, like I look at myself, like if somebody opened up a school today, I'm 20 years ahead of you, because of my knowledge in business. And I look at my staff members and I say, you know, when I was your age, I mean, I wish I had the knowledge that I could back then of my for myself, you know, that you have now.
Hmm.
But I think mentors, are very important. I think the key thing was just, watching, um, you know, everybody that was there that was successful. I mean, I don't know, I can't explain, you know, what exactly, you know, flip the switch, but I knew I had to take a risk, and
Hmm.
I'm a risk taker. So, you know, when it comes down to like, you know what, yeah, you know, that's a house payment, or, you know, for in this area, that's like a house payment. You know what I mean? I was like, wow. I was like, well, you know what? Well, you look at it now. I mean, like it was a major investment, and I'm still a part of it, and still doing it, and still learning, and still growing. As they grow and they learn, you know, so will I. You know, so that's where I think that, you know, it's important to find a coach. You know, somebody
Hmm.
who understands, um, uh, the concept of business, especially in the martial arts industry.
Well, I think you nailed it with one word when you said risk. You know, you got to take risks at some point. And if my friend Daniel Groff is watching right now, who happens to be one of our councilmen, uh, he always talks about, you know, taking risk and how important that is to, you know, because everything you do to get to the next level, you know, you've got to take that risk. But you take that risk with the confidence that, like you said, those people that you are now putting your faith and trust in have been there, have done that. They've, you know, they've experienced the ups and the downs, and they can show you proven results. You know, that's what really did it for me, is that I saw the proven results. I saw the systems that were being taught and the results that they were providing. And I too was in the beginning very hesitant, didn't want to change because I was so comfortable in what I had always done. But what I had always done had only gotten to me where I was at that point. If I wanted to keep going, I had to make some changes. And so that's what made the difference for me, was the trust in seeing the results with the proven systems. So I think, you know, there's always going to be that little bit of risk, but when you see people that have done it before you, and it's duplicatable, you know, your second school would not be possible if your systems were not, you know, duplicatable, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. So, you know, and especially opening up a second school during, when COVID was still, there. You know, so it was like I took a risk. It was a risk, and so it was a good risk because so now that school is generating, you know, new students all the time, and you know we're doing well in that school, and it's actually in a mall. So
Hmm.
it was kind of like, do I do it? Do I not do it? You know, so, but yeah, we have a couple locations, and it's just taking that risk, especially when you start to open your first school. You're like, do I do it? Do I not do it? You know, and you know, how am I going to do it? You know, and just sometimes you just gotta take that jump and do it. You know, so, and have that courage. You know, if you fail, then you fail, but you know, at least you tried. So yeah.
Well, speaking of failure, what has been your biggest failure that taught you the best lesson?
The biggest failure, huh? I've had so many failures, but um, I um, I opened up a martial arts school, a 10,000 square feet martial arts school, and I always thought, you know, bigger was better and stuff like that. You know, I wanted to expand and do all that stuff, but I didn't realize, how much of a, you know, work that it had to go into that, you know, facility, and you know, having to deal with codes and all kinds of stuff, and getting a 10,000 square foot facility up to code, and the cost that
Hmm.
it would cost. You just think, oh, big school, okay, I want to do this, and you know, boom, so you get so many like, you know, stoppages, you know, that it will stop you and say, hey, no, you need to do this, or hey, you need to do this, and so it just became a money pit. And you know, my lesson was, you know, bigger is not always better. I mean, some of us want the big martial arts schools, you know, and we think it's going to be great, but there's a lot more that goes into it, you know, than just, you know, the image of, you know, having a big school and you
Hmm.
know, growing. And it just that was my biggest lesson was, you know, bigger is not better, you know. So I just learned that at a harsh price, you know, losing a lot of money and having to get out of that building. And I did have a consultant at that time, and he basically told me, get an attorney, try and get out of your lease and stuff like that. So we ended up doing it, and I lost a lot of money, but that was my thing that I had to you know suck up.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think that for martial arts school owners, that's always the dream to have the biggest, the biggest school in the area. And like you said, bigger is not always better. I mean, listen, if you need the space, you need the space. But if you're doing the space for ego, and sometimes, that's our biggest challenge, is that when we start doing things for ego versus the benefit of the students in the school and the benefit of your community, things get lopsided, right? Your priorities start to change, and I've learned those lessons as well. Having a big school is not always better. So
Yeah,
I like my 2,000 square foot school that's really easy to clean, really easy to maintain, looks, not a lot of maintenance, and it fits. It houses the number of students that we have, and we're able to serve our students well in this area. I do have students that ask me all the time, when are we're getting so many students, when are we going to expand? I said, when you pay the rent, then we'll expand.
yeah,
Because
exactly.
we actually have a unit right next to us that's empty right now, and actually it's funny, because even if we expanded into that unit, it wouldn't really help us expand our mat size per se. So then we're not really serving the students, we're just serving extra space, right?
Yes.
So it's all a matter of managing that space. Well, let's switch gears. Let's talk about your political endeavors. You got involved in politics in your community. What prompted you to do that? What made you want to run for office?
Oh man, that was 7 years ago. You know, I wanted to. I felt like I could make a difference in the community, and which was, you know, it was one of the things that it was the first thing that when I ran for office, my school actually went backwards. So it was one of the things that I kind of had to think about when I was running for office. But I think I wanted to basically make a difference in the community and kind of give my insight of what our district should really needed. Um, but yeah, it was I lost by 18 votes. It was one of those things where it was, I'm used to winning. I'm very competitive, and
Hmm.
in the polls I was winning, and I just had great aspirations to become um, a political person that can help grow the community. But I think you learn that it wasn't the right time, or it just wasn't that time for me to be in there, because I think my school was it was still growing, and I feel like political wise, I think I can do so much more through my martial arts school. And just going back, I think like it's a lot of work. I will tell you, it's a lot of work knocking doors. You get rejected. Now it's a different time, but I think knocking. Everybody tells me, you got to knock as many doors as you possibly can, and I
Hmm.
did, and I thought I did a pretty good job. But when you lose by less than 1%, it's just like, and you were the favorite to win. It was humbling, but it was like, could I have done things a little bit different? Yeah, you look back, and but I enjoyed it. The experience was amazing. I met so many people, and had so much support.
Hmm.
But, politics can be kind of dirty at the same time. So if you decide you want to do that, it's just kind of, people are gonna say stuff and be mean to you, and I've seen all kinds of different stuff, not to me but to other people, and I'm just like, but I feel like now I can just do so much more doing what I do in the community through martial arts. And would I ever do it again? Some of the people have asked me, and I was like, I don't know. Only God knows. So, but it was a great experience. It was a great experience. I loved it. I wouldn't have changed it. I would have done a few things a little bit different, especially
Hmm.
losing by such a small margin. I
Hmm.
would have been like, that day that I didn't go out and knock doors, or that those few little votes, or and everybody thought, oh, he's gonna win. I don't need to vote. You know what I mean? So it was that kind of like mentality. But yeah, it was an experience. I enjoyed it, and but nowadays I don't know. Politics is pretty rough.
It can be, and my wife is watching, and she wanted to know, what office did you run for? And I think we said it was city council. Is that correct?
Yes. Yep, it was city
What
council.
what were some of your what was your platform? What were you passionate about making change? What did you feel needed to change?
It was more about business. When during that time when I opened up the big martial arts school, we had a lot of different types of inspectors that would come in, and it wasn't consistent. Trying to open up a business, and I just felt like our community wasn't business friendly at that
Hmm.
time. And I'm not sure exactly. With COVID and everything else, everybody wants businesses, but I think my platform was more community business, and making sure that businesses it was easier to start a business because small business is the backbone to our communities. I mean, that's people don't realize it, but all our tax dollars and the money that we make go back into a fund where it pays for police and all the city staff and all the other stuff. We pay
Hmm.
taxes, and that's how it works here. But
Hmm.
I think for the most part, I just feel uh, my platform was basically people wanting to succeed and grow in Las Cruces. So that was my biggest thing, is making sure that it was easier to start a business and less restrictions on being able to start a business.
Hmm. And I'm curious, how big is Las Cruces?
We're over 100,000 people in Las Cruces.
Wow. Okay.
100,000.
Yeah, that's a big area. I'm in Moore California, small little town of about 35,000 people. And it's interesting because the platform that you're talking about is what we hear from a lot of people is making it easier for the small businesses, which I think our city does a pretty fantastic job of supporting local businesses and helping get businesses. And I say that because I've run a business here for over 25 years and actually opened two more businesses in the height of COVID, and fortunately, it was a pretty smooth, easy process. But we hear that topic come up a lot, and there's so much more. And you're right. Politics can be. It can be rough, right? Especially, city council typically, right? City council is a nonpartisan race, right? But
Correct.
everybody wants to know. Everybody wants to know which side are you on? Which side are you on? Which side are you on? And like that's our country right now. Our
Yeah.
country is which side are you on? There's no middle, and that makes it even more. It makes it kind of crazy. So yeah, we're right in the heat of a election time coming up November 8th, I believe, and yeah, so I'm looking forward to seeing what happens here in our city, and who knows what holds for the future with me with that.
Well, I
My
wish
wife and
if you guys decide to do it, I wish you the best. And if you ever,
I.
you know, and the thing is, like, I try not to get political and my social media and stuff like that. But I just want to do what's right by my faith and what I believe, and that's I just want to do good things for the community and not hold people back, and I just want to see prosperity amongst everybody. That's what I would like to see.
Well, and I'm glad that you mentioned this because it's what draws me most to your posts on social media, and I followed you for a long time, and we've known each other for a bit. But one of the main themes of your posts almost every single day has to do with your faith in God. Obviously, this is from your upbringing, from your parents, from your family life. Talk a little bit about it.
Um, Growing up, I've always felt that there's a greater purpose for me, and when I was growing up, I always did envision myself being a priest. Believe it or not, I wanted to be a priest growing up. But certain things have happened to me in my life that I truly believe that putting God first, He's gotten me out of a lot of different situations and protected me and guided me. And I truly believe, like, when we do our salutation in class, we say a little prayer before and after class. And I truly believe that's the reason why I am successful, because I put God first in my dojo as well. And I've had people say, well, what if you find people that, don't believe or whatever? And I said, well, I mean, there's other schools. I mean, but this is what I believe. And this is what I want to bring into my school is my faith and my belief in God and putting God first. I mean, I have all types of nationalities that come into my school. I mean, from Muslim to, Christian, and some people that even don't believe. But it's one of those things where I truly believe that as long as you put God first, God's always going to be there and protect you and guide you and you'll always have growth. You know what I mean? So I'm consistent almost every single day posting something. When I wake up in the morning, the first thing I do is I go to my knees, I pray, I read the Bible every single day, and I just I do that. You know, I've been doing that since I was, you know, in my life, I believe like late 20s. You know what I mean? So I've been doing that consistently every day, even if when I'm sick or I'm not feeling well. You know, there hasn't been a day that I do not go to my knees and I give thanks to God and I pray over, you know, my family, friends, my schools, my students, you know, and I do that religiously just all the time, you know. So, and I try to go to church every Sunday. But, you know, putting God first is the reason why I am where I am today. And I want to be able to impact so many more people because nowadays I think we're losing that. We're losing a lot of things, you know, and God is one of them, you know what I mean? So, and I just want to be an instrument for God and show people, you know, that, you know, I want to be an example. Hey, you know what? Why are you successful? Because I get on my knees every day and I pray, and you know, I put God first. You know, I am not perfect, but I do my due diligence of finding, you know, God every single day and giving thanks every single day, and that's, you know, what I do, and I will never stop. You know, so I'm very grateful for the blessings in God and in my life.
Well, I think that's awesome, and it's inspiring, because when you scroll through Facebook or social media in general, right? And I mean, you can scroll through a lot of nonsense. I mean, and a lot, but when you come across certain posts and it really makes you reflect, it really makes you think. I just want you to know that I appreciate it. I love reading your posts every day, and I think that I just think that you're doing a great thing and leading by example with that.
And you know, I appreciate it because I truly believe there's a next step for my career in the future. I don't know what it is, but I think it's leading to, you know, recently we got together. My school's on Main Street, but on the backside there's a church. We got together and we purchased a church property, basically for a parking. And I don't know what God has in plan for me, but now we have a church. So I'm just like, okay,
Wow.
so where is God leading me next? And I think, you know, God's leading me to do bigger and better things through God, and I'm, you know, I'm listening. It makes me nervous, but you know, at the same time, I'm like, okay, God, you blessed me, you know, so you know, what's my next step, you know, in my life and my career, you know, so yeah, so it's just a little insight.
Yeah, good for you. Amazing. Listen, Roman R., if you could give your younger self any advice, what would you tell him in their journey with the martial arts world?
Stay consistent, never give up, never quit. A black belt is a white belt who never quit. You know, that's the key thing is keep moving forward, even during the challenging times that we have. There's going to be times where, you know, you're going to be tired, you're going to want to quit. You know, the key thing is to keep moving forward and never give up, because, you know, look at me. I remember there was a time, I remember my dad, I love my dad to death, but I remember I was walking out the door one time and he says, "Where are you going?" And I said, "I'm going to karate." And he says, "You and your karate," and he was giving me a hard time about it. I'm like, "Look at me now, Dad."
Right. Well, consistency is definitely the key, and I'm glad this question came up because I'm going to ask you that same question in a different way. What do you say to parents who allow their children to make the decision on whether they go to martial arts class? Because you and I both know that kids are going to have days that they want to go to class. They're going to have days they don't want to go to class. They want to play with their friends. They want to be on social media. They want to be watching videos on YouTube. And I have just seen this quite a bit, and I see martial artists comment all the time that, Johnny, do you want to go to karate? Is that the right question? Or what advice would you give to parents when they have a child that's struggling going to class, maybe not wanting to go to class?
You know, I always, at the beginning, I tell people, parents, it's a team effort. So when Johnny doesn't want to go to class, well, mom or dad have to say it and say, "Hey, you know what? No, we're going to class." Or if the parents feel like they give them the option, "Hey, you know, we got stuff to do. You know, you're going to miss karate," then the student has to step up and say, "Hey, you know what? You know, Sensei said, or you know, the instructor said, hey, it's a team group effort. You know, the values of what martial arts brings to the table. People, I always have my students at the end of class, they bow and out, and then they bow to the parents and say thank you. say thank you to the parents for the investment that they are getting, because not everybody gets the people don't realize the values that martial arts brings to the table. You know, you can play baseball, you can play soccer, you know, and I always tell people basketball, but the one thing that taught me the most value in my life was martial arts, the structure of martial arts, you know, the discipline, respect, the self-confidence, you know, of course, the self-defense that you can always use in case you ever have to, and of course, the perseverance, the values of those kinds of things that bring out the best in you. So, and one of my slogans is building life champions and leaders every day. I'm not looking to build the next UFC guy. I'm looking to build good community-driven people that are going to be good people in our communities, you know, around the world, you know, around wherever you know they may live. But I always feel like you know as long as you instill that in the parents and just say, hey, you know what, they're missing out on a class, and of course we've structured our system to where you know if you miss out, you're gonna have to do a makeup. You know what I mean? So, and I think it's important that parents understand the value, the true value of what your kids are getting, and you know, you might miss something really good in class. You know, so that's my advice to them. Yeah.
Hmm. Have you ever had someone earn their black belt that wished that they had quit?
No.
Right? You know, it's like we see this so much, and we see it on our side that we can see where this child or student could be if they continued on. And I think that's a good reminder to parents too, is this is where they are, but this is where they could be. And you just never know when that breakthrough is going to happen. It could be this class, could be next class, it could be next week, it could be next month. You don't know when it is. But as you said, consistency is the key. So if you stay on the path, they're going to have those breakthroughs one after another, which is going to take them to a whole new level. And I agree. I love team sports, team activities. I love, all these other things, but, martial arts teaches all of them, plus self-defense, plus the discipline, plus leadership, plus community service. I mean, you get all in one. And martial arts is year round, unlike some sports or activities that are seasonal. You stop and go, stop and go, stop and go. So it kind of takes away the consistency that we said is the key. So, well,
Absolutely.
listen, gosh, it's 57 minutes already. And usually I keep it at a strict hour. I can't believe how fast that went today. But if anybody is still watching and you would like to ask a question or make a comment, now would be the time to do that. Now is your last chance. But Mr. Guzman, thanks for being on the show. Thanks for being a light on Facebook and social media and in your community. I mean, what we see on Facebook is not everything, but it gives me a snapshot of what's going on in your life. And from what I see, things look like they're going really well, and you're doing some amazing work in your community. So keep that up, because you're inspiring the students and the next generation of instructors and leaders in your community to do better. So good for you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And I'm truly humbled and honored. And when you asked me, I was like, wow, that's really awesome that I'm getting to be on your show and stuff like that. So you interview a lot of top people. So I'm grateful for your opportunity, and thank you. And best wishes to you and your facility and your dojo and you know, your political career if you decide to do that. You know, so you got some good time to think about it. You know, and it's a family thing. And let me tell you, your family's got to be involved and support you and stuff like that. Because there's going to be, I will tell you one thing, being in that realm, it gets lonely. So just remember that. So being in the political world, it can get lonely at times. You know what I mean? You just think you're by yourself, but you just got to keep moving forward. Just keep
Well,
moving
I,
forward.
I appreciate that, and I will say that I know that if and when I do the next commitment that I put myself in, I always 100% have the support of my wife, my kids, my family. I have some very close friends that have been in that realm that will help guide me through. So I hope that we've got that all handled, and I appreciate the thoughts.
Absolutely. You'll do great. You'll do great. We need martial artists like that on city councils.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Well, guys, listen, that's it for today. Mr. Guzman, hang out for about 60 seconds as I play this video as we go out. But please tune in again. I'll be on Wednesday. This Wednesday, we have another guest coming up. And every Monday, always have a guest here live on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, and now we're on Twitch too. So check us out. Go follow us, subscribe, and share these videos. So, Mr. Guzman, thank you again so much, and I look forward to seeing you very soon.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
All right. Have a great week, guys, and happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.